please tell us. All we want to do is know. And on the other side of the wall, it was marked, very, very faded, but it said Kev Dave 1980. I was like 84, 83. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
Your brother, you can say the worst stuff to him because it's like, you know them better than they know themselves.
Yeah.
You know, I was like coherent when you're still like a toddler, you know, like watching you turn in, like develop into the person you are. And
rabbis and Muslims with their arms around each other and they're cheering and screaming and booing together.
High-fiving, yeah.
It's like, dude, this is crazy. This is like for pro wrestling. When you're in the ring with your brother and you ever see two guys on your brother, if you're in the street, are you going to sit there and let two guys jump on your brother and just sit there and wait for a cop to get there to tell you it's okay? No, I'd go in there and just dive in there head first. And he's like, exactly. Now get in there and save your brother. Together we make like a decent human being.
Same.
The movie is coming out. Our contracts are up. We're moving back to it's kind of how weird how it's all unfolding.
I'm Ross Von Erich.
I'm Marshall Von Erich, and you're listening to the Airey Bros Radio.
Your contract's coming up in MLW, so you guys are making the news. Everyone's wondering what's going on with the Von Erich. So I guess first and foremost, what's new and exciting with you guys?
So it's really exciting for us. Ross and I, a few months ago, we were getting ready. You know, June 1st, our contracts are up, so it's just right around the corner. So him and I wanted to go, pour the next 10 years of our, maybe 5 to 10 years of our lives into wrestling. Wanted to go all out. I just had two sons and want to show them that what my dad and his brothers did with what my grandfather left them. You know, they took the name and took it as far as they could. And we know it's a blessing to be Von Erichs, and we didn't earn it. It was given to us. So we wanted to use it to the best of our ability. And it's just, you know, it's an honor and a duty to do it. And so we decided we're going to move back to Texas, or at least go for a few months out of the year. But our hearts are in Texas. We feel like we're Texans in Hawaii. That's what we felt like for the last 20 years. And so we told my dad what we were planning on doing. And he was like, well, shoot, I've been longing for Texas for years. Take me with you. I'm going too. If y'all are going, I'm going. So the whole family's going. Everybody's going. Everyone was on board. And so we'll be July 1st is the day we're supposed to be, all supposed to be there, but it might be sooner. But that's what we've been doing right now, getting the Hawaii property ready to make that transition. And so we've our last show was about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah,
3 weeks ago, and we were taking a little break just so we can get everything situated. And so when we're full Texans, we're back on the road, and a lot of exciting things are coming up. Some we can't talk about yet, but we would love to jump back on your show and announce it on here because, you know, you guys are brothers. We support brothers. So yeah. But there's a lot of cool things in coming. You know, the movie, that's another exciting thing. We're excited to see where that goes. But yeah, that's as of right now, we're just preparing for this move.
With the name, was there ever a doubt in your mind that you would go into wrestling?
A little bit. You know, it's it could be looked at as a tall task, you know, and so we were both diehard wrestling fans when we were kids during the Attitude Era. We would, watch all the tapes, record WrestleManias and stuff. And just imagine, since we were little kids, we're wrestling on the trampoline, imagining that we're, doing some main event, somewhere. And yeah, we never knew if it would come about, but then we just kind of agreed, like, we're not going to force anything to happen. And so we were invited to the Harley race camp, and from that, it just kind of started, going and going, like slowly but surely. It wasn't like an astronomical, like, boom start.
Well, we were pursuing other things. He was pursuing football and I was pursuing track, discus. I was throwing discus like my Uncle Kerry, and we were both pursuing that. And then we had an opportunity. Harley Race invited us out to go to wrestling camp, and I was 18 and he was 21 or 22 or something like that. And so we were like, dude, what if we got into wrestling? Because it was always like that as a kid. It was like that would be crazy if we ended up wrestling. And we did it all the time. We wrestled everywhere. We used to fight constantly, wrestle each other constantly. And so when we told my dad that was something that we wanted to do, we wanted to try out, at least go to the camp and see what happens. We went over there to Harley Race's camp, and there was, 2 Pro Wrestling Noah scouts there. And they actually told me I look like Fritz Von Erich. And I said, oh, yeah, that's my grandfather. And they blew their minds. They couldn't believe it. And so then I was like, yeah, here's my brother, Ross. And they said, you are Von Erichs and you are brothers. And the whole camp was for people to compete, to be able to go to that, to Noah. And that was when we really saw the value of being a Von Erich, because we immediately got moved in front of the line. And I didn't want any wrestlers to be upset about it. And that's kind of was foretelling like how our career was gonna go, especially in Japan, because we're third generation. They assume that or a lot of the wrestlers would assume that there's a lot harder on us for being third generation, you know, because it's wanted to let us know we didn't earn that name. And so when we were over there, it was a lot of trials and tribulation, a lot of just amateur wrestling. They just extremely humbled, but it made my brother and I really back to back have to protect each other. We were all we had, and my dad knew what he was doing, putting us in that, because he knew that if we had any doubt that it would leave. And there was a lot of doubt and a lot of confirmation towards the end, but it got harder before it got better. But it was it was a lot to take on, especially when we got to Japan. We realized how big the family name was over there, and my grandfather, and to be so far away from home and feel there was others that carried the same name, carried the same burden, that came to that place at that same age, and they did it, and they didn't quit. And that's kind of what we held on to. But there's some crazy stuff that happened in Japan, but it was the best thing for us as brothers and for our careers, because after that we knew what the objective was, you know.
Yeah.
So you bring up that experience. Would you guys say you were young boys over in pro wrestling, Noah?
Yes, yeah. we were.
I think we're the only American young boys that Noah has.
But yeah, we were literally treated as Japanese young boys. It wasn't. We didn't. A lot of the Americans will go over there and they'll get to wrestle and all that. We went strictly to be young boys, and we were making chanko.
We had to do squats facing the wall like the other Japanese young boys. Like we weren't allowed to like look at the wrestlers or eat or anything until after everyone was done, clean the dojo.
It was rough because I didn't have a big Japanese wrestling history like lesson yet, but I'd say 2 weeks in, we became just students. We studied as much as we could because we realized we didn't want to be disrespectful and not know who was training us and all this. So we knew a lot of the guys from the 80s and stuff, but with a lot of the newer guys, we started researching and stuff. And we saw what was in front of us, and it was more so. It was like the training was more like a shoot style, like a lot of amateur wrestling. They didn't really warm you up to what wrestling really was until later. And the Japanese young boys, it makes you all close. It makes you all close because it really does feel like military. You know,
like you're going through like hell week basically with all these.
Yeah, we slept on it was cinder blocks with plywood on top of it, and these thin little sleeping bags. And so that's what we slept on for 3 months, came home for a few weeks and went back for 3 months. And we didn't know we were going back for 3 months until our trip was almost over. And I was like, man, okay, I did it 3 months. Okay, now I'd start.
Then your heart just sinks because you're like, I don't know if I can handle another one of those.
They say, you go home for 2 weeks, renew visa, come back for 3 months. We both looked at each other, and I'm not gonna lie, I was 18. I got like choked up. I didn't cry in front of anybody, but I was just like, shoot, man, I'm like a mama's boy. I was like a mama's boy. I'd never been away from home for 2 weeks, longer than 2 weeks. And so that it grew me up really quick. Even my dad said we got home and they didn't recognize us. He said we were just all our necks had gotten a lot bigger from all the bumps we were taking. And you could just tell we did a lot of growing up.
So being Von Erichs, I feel like that's almost like your boot camp and your rite of passage of, you know, getting that wrestling history. Not all wrestlers this day and age get to go have that experience. And I would think because of the last name and having that experience, you guys bring like an old school fan maybe back to wrestling to watch you guys, because that's something that, you know, it's old school, maybe like the Jim Cornette guys would get down with, and you guys kind of pull them back to it.
I appreciate you saying that. That's old school is what we love the most, you know, man. It's the classic storytelling, it's a fight. You watch any Von Erich match, they didn't hit the ropes clean. They didn't take clean bumps. It just looked like a fight scene or in a saloon or a brawl. It was all over the place, not taken away from what wrestling's come to today, because it's very acrobatic and fun to watch. And we'll, depending on who we're wrestling, we'll incorporate a little of it. But what made us fall in love with wrestling was that. And I remember when we were, I think we were early ages, like around 8, 12, something like that. We watched the Hardy Brothers. We would sneak WWE VCRs because my mom didn't want us watching it. So we would sneak it. We'd sneak and watch at my friend's house or in my room. We would make sure the doors were locked and we watch it. And I remember the Hardy Brothers turned on each other, and they were by far our favorite tag team because they're brothers like us. And I remember when they turned on each other, we were crushed, man. We were completely crushed. And we made a pact right there. It's like, when we're tag team champions, we're never turning on each other. When we're a tag team, we'll never turn. And we've held that promise. So I'll never forget what it did to us as kids, because those were the two guys you want to live through these wrestlers. That's for us. That's at least what we did. And when they turned on each other, it was painful. And so yeah, we made a pact right there as kids.
So you guys mentioned your athletic backgrounds, you track and some football. Did you have any amateur wrestling experience before you got the calling to go to Japan and all that stuff?
We had a little wrestling experience. There was wrestling at my school. Ross did jujitsu and a little bit of amateur wrestling, but we really got to learn a lot of it in Japan, because a lot of our trainers were Olympic wrestlers for the Japanese wrestling team. So we really got the fundamentals pounded into us. And what was great is we were young enough where we didn't have bad habits, where we could pick up pretty quick. And so I learned a lot of everything we knew in Japan. And it was it was like a crash course, because we told them when we were supposed to debut. They gave us a date, and so they had to. It was mostly amateur wrestling until.
I know. I remember we were about like a month or two away from our debut, and we hadn't learned any pro wrestling. Yeah. It was only amateur wrestling.
It was boxing, amateur wrestling, submissions, jiu-jitsu. It was like everything other than pro wrestling. And so then the last month was like a crash course of pro wrestling, and it was it was cool, because the guys we got that taught us, Morifuji, Goshizaki, Aoki, a lot of these wrestlers they're just the easiest guys to wrestle in the world, because it's all they do. And in Japan, it's looked at like almost how we look at the NFL. It's very respected, and watching these guys walk around and get on the bus, the fans are just they're so appreciative of what the guys put their bodies through. Because a lot of these guys, like, I couldn't believe it, but the great Muda, he rolled up in a wheelchair, rolled all the way to the entrance to the apron, and then when his music hit, he got out of his wheelchair, went and wrestled, came right back to the curtain, got right back in his wheelchair. And I was like, dang, man, this is crazy. And it was he wrestled my dad and stuff, and seeing him and my dad get to see each other was really, really cool, because we felt pretty homesick. And then my dad came and saw us the last 2 weeks, and it was pretty unreal getting to see him. It was so weird seeing a familiar face, because the only English we heard was each other, and then we had part of the tour, we got to be with the Bravado brothers from Ring of Honor. So that was good to speak English with somebody. But
you mentioned your dad, and I definitely want to go back to Noah and your time together there, kind of growing as partners and brothers. But you mentioned when your dad came to Noah, how awesome that was. And when you guys came on my radar as a tag team, it's when you guys appeared at Impact Wrestling, and you showed up with your dad, and he put the Iron Claw on. What was that? Was that the first time you guys were in the ring with your dad? And if it wasn't, what was that kind of first time or that experience like when you got to experience being around your dad in his element?
That was the first time. That's why it was such a raw experience, man. That was like I didn't know my dad was going to come in the ring and stick the claw on. I'll never forget that.
That was a surprise to us too.
And it was on Father's Day. I remember after the match too, we all got in the back, and at the time we were even both telling my dad, we're like, man, I don't know if we're cut out for this, Dad. I don't know if we're good at this, because he was actually he was kind of against us getting into pro wrestling at first, but then he saw our faces light up when we went to Harley Race's camp. He saw something kind of change in us, and then when we came back from trips, we would share with him. And I remember he said one night, he's like, it's almost like I got my brothers back. You know, I'm sitting there, you guys are hitting the same towns we hit, same stories. A set of Von Erichs going through. I remember went through to customs in Japan, and my first name's Kevin, his first name's David, and one of the guys we were just wondering, man, is anybody gonna know who we are? We're just, we're Kevin's kids. Is anyone gonna know? And the guy at the first guy at the gate, and he said, I remember 30 years ago, Kevin and David Von Erich came through here, and they were brothers too, just like you. And, and we told him, Kevin's our dad. And that guy started crying, and I was like, man, this is a lot bigger than we think it is. Yeah. But being in there with my dad, and he came and stuck the claw, was just so like unreal. And then we got back, and nobody could talk. Everyone was just like kind of just overwhelmed. We look at each other and start laughing, and everyone's choked up. It was crazy. But then we got to actually wrestle with him in Israel, and that was, I can't even explain how awesome it was.
Some other character comes over him like right when the music hits, and he's just like, he's like not even talking to you, he's talking at you, because he's in character.
Yeah,
and
man.
Like nothing is gonna throw him off. And he
had the flu before our Israel match. He had the flu and was literally laid up on the bench.
We're like, how is he gonna do this?
He said, don't worry, boys, if there's a will, there's a way. God brought me here, and God's gonna make me leave. And so we were like, all right, we'll see. And so we sat there, and right when his music hit, man, it was like a movie. He popped right up, and he's like, firecracker, baby. He's just saying all this weird stuff, and it's like, he's like, I don't know. He's like, he was saying weird, funny stuff. But we were so into it. Everything he was saying, he knew. He's great at talking to young men and getting them like pumped. I don't know, because we were so ready to run through a brick wall. And when our music hit, we came out with them. The place erupted. Seeing my dad just completely in his element. He, as his son, you always think like, I don't know, your dad can embarrass you. He can do this, he can do that. Because there's not many made like my dad. My dad doesn't feel like embarrassment and stuff, or making a scene or anything like that. If he wants to talk to you about something, he'll talk to you in front of everybody. He's like, forget they're here. Like, it's just me and you, And it's, as a kid, you're like,
he's like so genuine and like real. I think some people just don't know how to like take it sometimes. But he's just like, if there's something to be talked about and you're there, boom, it's happening.
Yeah. But in that match, though, my dad was, it was like a wrestling seminar, but it was an actual show. And he was literally like, okay, drop toe hold, snap mare. He's like telling us.
He's telling us what to do the whole time.
Yeah, move by move. And then he's like, you want the tag? And I'm like, yes, sir. He give you the tag. And we were like double teams would kind of just form from it. And we learned so much from getting there, because my dad's, his style is, he calls everything in the ring. He doesn't like to call anything in the back. And a lot of wrestlers are afraid to do that nowadays. But when you do that, it really is, you're going off of the crowd, and the crowd is pretty much calling the match.
They're dictating.
They're dictating it. And it's once we started doing that, it was kind of hard to go back. But when you're wrestling on TV, it's a little different. It's harder to do that. But we prefer to call it in the ring. It's the funnest matches. You never know what's going to happen. And it's a genuine fight. And remember, Chavo Guerrero gave us great advice. He said, when you're in the ring with your brother and you ever see two guys on your brother, if you're in the street, are you going to sit there and let two guys jump on your brother and to sit there and wait for a cop to get there to tell you it's okay, or a referee, whatever? And I was like, no, I'd go in there and just dive in there head first. And he's like, exactly, get in there and save your brother. And so it changed a lot of our mentality. We put the referee to work now. We're treating it like a street fight.
Yeah.
First, you guys mentioned that your shoot names are Kevin and David, right? So you're named after your father and your uncle. What is it like growing up with those names in Texas?
Man, well, first of all, I had the same third grade teacher as my Uncle Kerry and Miss Ackard. Yeah. And so we lived in a small town, and, a lot of people, were just kind of taken back by it. I've gone by at school, and like my first through maybe like fifth grade, I went by David, and then I kind of changed it to Ross, my middle name, or I've always been called by Ross by my parents, but yeah, I mean, as far as legal goes, yeah, we've been called Kevin and David our whole life.
There was cool things that came from it, like it was definitely there was, because Texas is just, we love Texas so much, and so the Von Erich name means a lot in Texas. And then rarely, but it did happen, people would kind of assume, oh, you think you're better than us? Like a little bit like that, just that.
Yeah, it was either good or it was extra bad.
Extra bad, yeah. Because I had coaches and stuff that just because you're Von Erich don't mean that you don't have to work just like us. But they didn't know my dad was having us do fence lines, and I lived on a ranch, and we're working with cattle all the time. My dad made sure that he's like, I'm never raising any spoiled sons, and we lived poor. People think that there was a lot of money and all that stuff, but we lived like my dad didn't treat us any. We had to work for everything that we had. We busted our butts our whole lives, and that's how it was. But in Texas, there was some teachers that would assume that, or my friends' parents that immediately just once they find out who you are, kind of not like you, something like that. And I know my dad and his brothers, they were wild too. So I don't know if they offended somebody or whatever they did, because they got some crazy stories. If cell phones were around, a lot of that stuff wouldn't have
man. The 80s.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys have ever heard or listened to it, but there's a podcast called The Laps Fan, and they have done like, I want to say like 10 episode deep dive on your family. Now, some of it, like they're kind of all over the place. So some of it might be offensive, but mostly it's a history thing and it's like comedy. But I've heard all the stories of your uncles and all that, how they were pretty much like rock stars then. And, you know, unless you were around during that time, you couldn't comprehend it. And another big thing with your family, and I could never understand it. I know you guys talked about it all the time, but you guys are huge in Israel. And you guys like stopped war. They stopped shooting at each other to watch the Von Erichs happen. How did that happen? And is that still a thing? You guys go over there and you guys are still rock stars over there?
Dude, that blows my mind so hard. When my dad got invited to do he's been asked to do a retirement match, thousands of times. And he said, if I was going to do it anywhere, it would either be somewhere in Texas or Israel. And we're like, Israel. And then he explained to us, my dad doesn't like brag very much, but we get like fan letters from Israel all the time. But I guess back in the 80s, they sent the show to a Jordan TV network. And it was the first time in history that the ratings were 100%.
Yeah, and they said back then you only got like 2 channels or something.
Yeah, 2 channels. And it was on every Saturday, and it was during their Shabbat. So right when Shabbat was over, they would click their TVs on. They got 1 channel, and it was WCCW. So the entire country was watching.
It's weird. It was like integrated into the culture. There was like little sayings like
Von Erich Hazakim. What do you think you're like? We say, like, what do you think you're Superman? If you try to lift something heavy, it's what do you think you're Kevin Von Erich? And they say that amongst each other to this day.
And really, you can ask a cab driver, anybody that was around during that time. They have like such warm memories of it, and it's like, I don't know, that respect and that like positive impact it had on people. And they were like, oh, it's the best times. We'd pretend to wrestle on the playground and all that. And it's just, I don't know, it's like a humbling,
What's funny is the Arabs and Palestinians like my Uncle Kerry more, and then the Jews like my dad more. And we're still trying to piece that together. Why? But it's funny. My dad said it was the first time in his entire life that he got weak in his knees from a crowd of people. But he was flying to Israel because he had so many fan letters. So he was like, I'm going to go out there and we'll do a match, or I think they're going to do a show or something. But as he's going down there, he said that the plane got stopped because there was a crowd of people blocking where they taxied. And he said he looked out the window, and it was just as far as you could see, just heads of people. And so some cops ran on the plane. My dad was like, "Who's this for? This is whoever. There's like a superstar on this plane." And they came straight to my dad and they said, "Keep your head down. Don't make eye contact with anybody. Follow us." He thought he was in trouble, and so he was got his luggage. He's getting off the plane, and he made eye contact with a lady and her son and just waved like this. And he said that the barrier started shaking, the ground started shaking, and he said that the whole place just erupted. And the cops threw him over his shoulder. And they were running with them through these barricades they made, and the barricades were these concrete barricades, and they were shaking and stuff. They took him to a police station for about 4 hours to till the crowds died down. And they watched WCCW matches until the crowds eventually died out. But that was when he knew something special was going on in Israel, and it was the first time in like years they had a ceasefire between the Palestinians and the Jews. They had a ceasefire just to watch the match. one thing, wrestling. You know, wrestling brought peace.
Yeah, there was just no war when it came like that time of day where world class was on. It's just like it was a strange, you know, weird time and place.
Even in our match with my dad, as a retirement match, you see, you know, we see like rabbis and Muslims with arms around each other and they're cheering and screaming and booing together.
High-fiving, yeah.
It's like, dude, this is crazy. This is like for pro wrestling. This is crazy.
It gives you a deeper appreciation for pro wrestling, for a weird means that brings people together in so many ways, you know. And there's also, we hear stories all the time about, oh, I never had a great relationship with my dad, but one thing we had in common is we'd watch, you know, wrestling or world class or something, and it's just, I mean, it's mind blowing. It really is
amazing and beautiful and powerful that you can bring people together like that don't really see eye to eye, but when you strap on the boots and get in the ring, everything is calm and peaceful, and even if it's only for 45 minutes to an hour, it's that's a powerful thing. So I wanted to go back for a second because, you know, Jimmy and I are probably, you know, we're super tight, but at the same time, we've known to throw some hands at one another. And you mentioned the gentleman gave you the piece of advice. You know, what are you going to do if there's a double team on your brother? Are you just going to stand there and wait for something, or are you going to jump in there? So I'm curious. You know, we always have each other's backs out in the street, but like I said, sometimes we've been known to throw down a little bit. Have you guys have any epic scraps, either today or back in the day?
Oh, back in the day, especially not so much as adults. We'll get in like arguments and stuff, but we don't like throw hands anymore. We'll spar each other. I think because we're so physical with each other all the time anyways, it rarely does it break out into a fight. But no matter what, he's my older brother, so he kind of always has the upper. It's annoying. I don't know why God made it that way, but your older brother.
I feel you.
I was 270 and he was like 215, and still like just find a way. And it just never worked out. And I've had plenty of chances to spar him and cheat and all that stuff. I think I got him tapped like once, and it was
when we were growing up. Yeah, we're always fighting, but like we had another group of friends that was one brother was my age and the other one was his age, and we'd play wrestle on the trampoline and all that stuff all the time. But if my friend would try to mess with Marshall, it was like, no, I can beat him up. You can't touch him. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's always like that.
Our last big brawl was probably we went up in the mountains. It was when I was like in ninth. We're still in high school, but we went up, and I don't remember the whole story. We went up there playing volleyball, and something happened. He threw the ball at the back of my head, and I fought back, and it got we screaming at each other the meanest stuff we could say and swinging and all that stuff. But eventually, I think we both knew when I was 15, I was crying. I was like, I'm too old to be crying this hard, and it's like calling them like these childish insults. And
but you know your brother, you can say the worst stuff to him because it's like you know them better than they know themselves.
Yeah,
you know, I was like coherent when you're still like a toddler. You know, like watching you develop into the person you are. And I know. And then it's just like as the older brother, you'll always see him with that as like that little kid, 2 or 3 years old, like with a toy car clenched in his hand and chocolate on his mouth. And it's like, okay, like, I don't know. You can't watch somebody else pick on your brother. It's like, okay, I got his back. That's my job.
Yeah.
And vice versa too.
Yeah, totally. So what is the tail of the tape? You said are you still 270, or what do you guys walk around out now? How tall are you both?
Right now, we've for the past 5 years, our weight's been a little lower. We've been changing our workouts just because of injuries, and we were leaving once a week from Kauai. It's a big reason why we're moving too, is we were leaving once a week, and it was so hard to maintain weight because naturally we're both really, really skinny, and so we have to constantly fight that all the time. But now I'm around like 225, and
I stay around like 200. But at one time I was like 225 and he was like 270 or whatever.
Yeah, and it was just too much. I spent so much money on food.
Yeah, and you're lifting so much heavy weight and you're always achy and sore, and it's hard on you.
Your joints just hurt and stuff. And now we just go and we just let the genetics kick in, and then we just work out, eat a lot, I just eat like a normal human 3 times a day, twice a day.
It's weird. Like we'll get skinny, but at the same time, people like we'll get like ripped if we don't eat, and people like think we're doing some I'm like, well, what kind of diet are you on? I was like, nothing. I just hadn't been to the gym. And so you just look skinny and ripped. And it's just, some people would like that kind of look, but we need to get beefier.
We're definitely blessed with the genetics. My dad, I'm so grateful for him, because with my work ethic, he's like my trainer. He works out really hard. I don't have great workout like ethic, I guess. And I love bad food and all that stuff. But it is, I should be like in really bad shape with the how I eat.
It's a miracle, man.
Yeah. And I don't sleep very much. Yeah, all that stuff.
You mentioned being in Noah and kind of grown together as brothers. As far as your relationship, were you guys pretty tight before you got into wrestling? How has that grown, throughout wrestling? And maybe not fight in present day, but has there been a time like you're yelling at each other on the side of the rope, or you get in the back and you smack the other one in the back of the head, or anything like that? Has there been any stories like that?
Yeah, like I got us pulled over the other day when we were wrestling in Lufkin, and we got a pretty big argument. I hocked a loogie in his face. It was
that's automatically at least a hit back.
Yeah,
definitely.
It was a deserved slap. But yeah, we get stuff like that. But I think when we moved to Hawaii, it made us a lot closer, because when we got here, we both didn't have any friends, and so we just kind of gravitated towards each other, and then
as we get older, slowly, or I think all brothers maybe, but you slowly realize like, we got a lot in common, and we mostly like the same things, and then like surface level stuff irritates you about the other one, but at the end of the day, you're like, this person, we get along great, and I think once you change your mindset, like, we kind of have to get along. Like, you're my partner. We kind of like have to make this work.
It just won't go away. He's always there.
Yeah. Then it's just convenient if it works out, So we try to keep it peaceful.
And what's the age difference?
4 years.
4 years?
4
Okay.
Yeah.
And you guys mentioned going back to Texas, and we all know you guys are living in paradise right now in Hawaii. What are you guys gonna miss most about Hawaii? What have you missed most about Texas?
Texas, for me, it's the people, the Tex-Mex, but it really the people. But I told my dad when we first moved over here, I was really against coming to Hawaii at first, because I told my dad, I was like, I was about 13 or 14. I was like, I'm not an ocean kid. I'm a blackberry eating country boy. I don't belong out here. And I hated it for like 6 months, man. When we'd go back, I would just like disappear out in our field, and kind of like, man, what if they just forget about me? I loved that ranch I grew up on. Every morning, wake up and just take off out in the field, still be in my underwear. I'd be out there all day, swimming in the ponds, eating berries, like playing with the cattle. I just had a great Texas country childhood, and then come in here. Honestly, it started growing on me. The scenic, beautiful mountains, getting to go to the ocean. It's probably a really healthy lifestyle.
Like jumping off waterfalls and cliffs, that got us through a lot. Really.
Yeah, honestly, it did. It's a good way to cope, is go jump off a big old cliff and put some goggles on.
Take like an hour-long hike to some crazy spot no one ever goes to.
Yeah. In the middle of this island is very unexplored. So like, you'll go in the middle of the island, you'll see like old crashed planes, and like this, if it's just crazy. And then they have the mountains over here too. You can go up to Kokea where it's like 40 degrees, and I love cold weather. That was a big reason why I wanted to move too, is I miss seasons. I'm blonde. I think I'm an albino because I love cold weather, man. I'm not made for this intense sun all the time, but Texas got some intense summers. But yeah, I'll miss a lot of. I made a lot of good friends here. So did he. I went to all my high school years here, so I got a lot of my closest friends are here. We formed a lot of like brotherhoods with a lot of other guys here, and just the overwhelming support we have here. When we signed with MLW, is there's signs on the road, go Von Erichs, go. We have all the support.
Yeah, we have such crazy community support.
Yeah, the people here are awesome. But I don't know if it's forever. It might be, but we're gonna go back to Texas and just see what see what God has in store. We feel like it's ready for the next season, and we've been here for almost 20 years, and it would be nice. We've chose family over wrestling our entire careers. We've chose to live here, and there's been some consequences, but I don't regret anything. I got to watch my dad in his later years, and spend this time with my sons and still get to wrestle. We still traveled a lot and wrestled and gone to Israel, gone to UK, gone all around Texas, different countries. And that's been like, it's been doable, but we know if we're in Texas, if we're in mainland and we're in the, central like Texas, it'll be easier if we did sign with a big company.
More opportunity.
Get more opportunities and all of that. And we got a lot of stuff we want to do, and it's a lot harder to do when you're out in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
Was it kind of by design to stay in Hawaii as long as you did, and when you felt like it was time to go take a run?
Man,
it's weird how
I don't think we could have planned it. If we it almost looks like we're smart and we figured like, oh, we'll just do this, but it just kind of fell into our hand. Like,
it's weird. Like the movies coming out, our contracts are up, we're moving back to it was kind of how it's all unfolding. And it was weird as because in Hawaii we're shepherds. We got about 40 head of sheep, and so that's a we do a lot of farming here and things like that. And it's weird that we've been in Hawaii. We've come to Hawaii for 20 years and we've shepherded our father's flock. It's Israel loves that. I don't really. I was not ashamed of it, but those sheep, man, it's crazy. You do a lot of like searching.
It doesn't get very many girls if you lead with that.
It's like talking sheep all day. They're a great audience. They're
good for promos. They're pretty.
They kind of do their own version of the what, like while you're talking to Steve Austin.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird. We've done a lot of things over here that definitely the community's grown on us. We've coached football. We've for my nephews and things, and we're part of the community. But we just feel like that season, maybe the season's over, and the next season it's going to be in Texas. And
yeah, it's not like, oh, we can't wait to get out of here. It's just like we're sad we're leaving, But I think there's bigger and brighter things.
Yeah, it feels like it's the right thing to do right now.
Yeah.
You mentioned the community and the local support. Was that always the case, or was it a rough go for the Texas Howley boys when you first arrived?
It was a rough go at first.
It was like a few months in, it was like, because I got in a fight within like the first week, and then I started going to school, and then like 2 months in, I got into another big fight. And so it was like, and so everybody knows each other, and all the kids would be like looking for my truck, and it's a crazy weird way to live for a while, because it's like all the kids your age like want to fight you or run you off the road or like mess with your car or something like that. So
it was on the North Shore. The North Shore is a really close, tight community.
Yeah, so, but looking back, that's kind of normal how it is, and it was like for our benefit, I think, in the long run,
we wouldn't have been as close.
Yeah, and people see what you're made of, what you will and won't tolerate, and and it made me and my brother a lot closer, because
it kind of felt like us versus everybody at first. It really did.
Literally, it really was.
And then I didn't want to say that's where we really got our amateur wrestling background, but kind of first getting over here, just defending ourselves at beaches and all that stuff.
I know. We both started taking MMA classes we took them for like 2 years, and then by the time you're really confident, it's like, oh, nobody wants to fight anymore. So it's
that was the biggest issue. Is I was like, man, I know these guys are only like talking crap and picking on me because I'm skinny. Like if when I'm muscular, I'm gonna find these guys, and then you start working out, and then everyone disappears.
Yeah, or that same guy that was picking on you is like, oh, hey, what's up, man? They're like your best friend now.
Yeah, so. You're an animal. They'll compliment you, but I'm not one to hold grudges either. But I'm just like, dang, man, please talk crap to me.
Yeah.
Is it 20 years that you guys take up surfing?
Yeah, I did. I did surfing.
He got really into it for a while.
He was more of a bodyboarder, but he would literally go for any wave. We built a little bit of a reputation in that too, that it wouldn't, that maybe we were just dumb enough to go for any wave, but we would go to places where you're supposed to, it's toe-in surfing, like guys coming with jet skis, no one really paddles out. And we'd go out there and we'd paddle out and just catch the biggest wave we possibly could. Yeah. But there were some scary moments. There's like I think I've had more near-death moments surfing than anything else I've ever done.
And we've always kind of loved danger and like cliffs and, you know, big waves, stuff that other people look at and they're like, oh, I would, no, that's crazy to go out there and do that.
My dad like ingrained that in us.
Yeah.
He's like, don't follow the crowd, be different.
No,
be different.
and now that I look back, I can see the wrestling in it, because if there was like a few people there, they're like, oh, I'm not doing it, then you got a captive audience, you know, and something about that made us want to like push the envelope a little bit more than usual.
At the time, we just felt like show offs, but now I'm seeing it's like, man, we were meant to entertain. That's what we've always wanted to do.
We're entertainers.
We go to this place called Kipu Falls. It's like a 50-foot drop off of this cliff. It's a really high cliff, but it's got a rope swing, and we would go all the time. We're doing backflips, and this thing, it's called the death dive. Here it's called the Sui, a suicide dive, but I think in Europe they call them the death dive, where you go and it's almost like a belly flop, and right before you hit the water, you close up, you go face first and you close up. And so we were doing that out of like trees, and there's a 50-foot cliff, but there was a tree on top of the cliff, so it made it like 70 feet. So if there's any miscalculations, you're gonna get knocked out, hurt, you know, or an enema if you go.
It's almost like a rite of passage if you're able to do it. You know?
Yeah. And so we'd wait till a new crowd of tourists came in, and are you ready? Round 2, and go do our flips and all that stuff.
Yeah, I'd see him climbing up the rope and like, oh, what are you gonna do this time? I think I'm gonna do the double backflip this time.
Yeah,
he would know. The crowd.
He'd know if there was like some girls that just got there, because I was extremely trying to show up. But there's a lot of times where we embarrassed ourselves, and you know, you back flop or something like that.
Yeah, your leg hits the rope as you're letting go, and you do a bunch of cartwheels, and don't look very cool.
Yeah.
So living in Texas, living in Hawaii, no matter where it is, it seems like you guys are always going to have that connection to the land where your feet are under. And you guys, especially your father, are known for not wearing shoes. We're a little woo-woo hippie over here at the Airey Bros, so we like the ground, and we know the benefits of that. Again, is it like one of those by design things, and you guys just have like great immune systems because you're barefoot?
Real. These are real callus right here.
Are you guys pretty like much as, you know, whenever you can be barefoot, and you make a point to walk on, you know, dirt for however long each day?
It's crazy you said that. I think we just realized the benefits, the actual benefits of it.
Grounding.
But naturally we've, because my dad, we've always been barefoot. Everything we've done, I've constantly been yelled at by like teachers and put your shoes on. It's not safe to walk here or whatever. But I anytime I go to a new place, the first thing I want to do is take my shoes off and walk in that soil, you know, just to, I don't know. I never knew why, but now it makes sense, because it is like it's grounding, gives you energy. And my dad's always done. I don't even think my dad knows the benefits of it, but he's just like, I just like to dig my toes in the dirt and say, here I am, God, wherever I'm at. He's like, well, wherever my shadow is at, that's where I'm home. And I just thought that was cool, the way he said that. And so yeah, I liked how when he wrestled, he literally just bring his trunks and put them in his back pocket, and he's ready to go. He didn't have boots, knee pads, or any of that stuff.
Yeah, even in Texas, we'd be barefoot most of the time. But here, since it's more acceptable, it's like, well, I'll go to the convenience store, definitely not wear shoes, all that stuff.
Yeah, Walmart, you know, you can go anywhere.
You can get away with it here.
Go to school without shoes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
As far as wrestling without shoes, is that just as much as getting a callus? Because I know, you know, I grew up wrestling, but getting into jiu-jitsu, you know, you cut your feet up a bunch, but once you kind of get used to being on the mat, you're good to go. Is it the same kind of deal with knee pads and shoes?
Yeah, your toes. My toes just ended up adjusting, because I remember when I went to wrestling training at Harley Race's camp, they gave me shoes to wear because I didn't show up the first day without shoes, and they were like, oh hey, they gave me like some shoes, and they were just so uncomfortable, squeezing my pinky toe. Like, again, I don't know, I just hated that clutter feel. I want to spread my toes apart, and so I asked them. They said, okay, at your own risk, go ahead. You're probably going to break some toes, and I don't know. I just know my surroundings better when I'm barefoot. I feel like I just know where the ground's at. If I'm gonna flip and hit the ground, I just feel like I know it better. I can grab the ropes with my toes, just like my dad did. But he's a barefoot guy too. I don't know why he wears boots. He's just as barefoot as I am.
He's already doing the barefoot gimmick. I might as well do the other one.
So some guys will wrestle without shoes, and you can tell that they wear shoes all the time by the way their toes are like shaped and stuff, but he's got barefoot feet. Like his feet, he looked like Shrek.
Yeah, you know when your pinky toes are like almost aiming out.
Yeah.
Then you know
none of his toes are touching. They're all like separated.
That's what you want.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm realizing it now. It's like, man, and I feel like my balance is better. I actually use my pinky toes. A lot of people that wear shoes, they don't even use their, they don't use the little toe.
Yeah.
Another thing that's come up several times, you gentlemen talking is God has a plan or whatever God has in store for us. Is that something that's important to y'all?
Yeah, man. It's that kind of, my dad never forced that on us, because my dad, he did a lot of searching in his time, losing brothers and all that. He did a whole bunch of searching. He looked into like Hinduism, Buddha, as much stuff as he could. And when we were at the age of searching, because I knew my mom was a Christian, and so I asked Dad, I was like, what do you believe? And he's like, I want you to. He's like, if God is real, I want Him to reveal Himself to you. So I want you pray about it, and you ask Him about it. It's like, for me personally, after all the searching I did, he said, every religion I looked in, every one of them required some effort or some self work. And he's like, a give take thing. Say this prayer this many times. Let's get on your knees this many times. And he's like, the only religion that I found that didn't require that, just belief, was Jesus. And so he's like, and he said, there's no room to boast. There's no room to boast. If you believe in Jesus, it doesn't matter how many verses you know, how many times you go to church. It's what you believe in your heart. If you believe that He died on the cross for your sins and you're saved. And so at the time, it was hard to wrap my head around it, because I just didn't. I was like, if there's a God up there, He has to need something from me. I just didn't. It was hard for me to wrap my head around it. And so we personally have experiences, and we both came to the same fact. But it was a day in particular that really changed it for us. We were in Japan. It was one of our first tours. It was like, it was our second tour, and it was like midway through it, so it was probably the most miserable time. And we were on buses. We're on buses for, I think, 2 weeks straight. So we were living.
There wasn't enough seats, and we're the young boys, so we're sleeping on the bags or on the floor.
Or on the
underneath.
floor. Yeah, like the floor was a luxury, because you get to spread it, like stretch out. And I remember we were like, at this time, I think we're like 0-60 or 0-70, because we were losing every match. And we're before every show, we would always find a way to get to the roof or get outside, just to get away from everybody, just to talk and be alone. And sometimes we didn't even talk to each other. We'd just be quiet. We just knew that, hey, let's get all of our duties out of the way, fill up the ice bags, fill up all the stuff, and then let's just get alone. So that was our ritual. We'd get away. And then we're up on top of this roof one time in the middle of nowhere. The last place I ever suspected my family would be. And it was like rice fields everywhere, and it's a venue, and then rice fields, middle
farmland
and stuff. And so we were up in this building, up at the top of this building, and I was like, dude, you want to like ask God if this is what we're supposed to do? Like, are we like
super discouraged at this point?
Yeah, we're really low, because we're both feeling it. Like, we were at the point where we're going days without talking, just going through the motions. And I was like, dude, do you want to pray and see if this is the thing we're supposed to do? So we had a good life in Hawaii, and I'm like homesick. I had a girlfriend at the time, and I was like, man, is this what we're supposed to? Let's ask God if this is what we're supposed to do. And so we went, and so we held hands, we said a prayer, and then just kind of went on with our day. And I remember he got on my shoulders, and we scratched our initials on the wall, kind of thinking, well, if we are going home, then we'll see our initials here maybe one day. We'll
make our mark here.
We'll make our mark. And so we carved Ross Marshall 2012, and then he drew like a little alligator thing. It's something my dad always does. My dad always draws a little shark with sharp teeth. So he did this little crappy alligator. It's not a good drawing, but we went in, had our match, got the crap kicked out of us. And then actually that was the match I actually got submitted. I remember I was supposed to tap out, and I was completely out. And so shoot tapped out. Yeah, I don't tap out of blackout. but we got back. We got back to the locker room and went up to that roof. And we were just talking about something else. And while we were talking, in the corner of my eye, on the other side of the building, because it's a roof, and then there's like another building on top of the building, a little stairwell. And on the other side where we carved our names, there was just a super dull scratch marks on the wall. And it was just crazy because right after we just like had this like prayer about, is this what we're supposed to do? God, answer us now if you're real. If you're real, please tell us. All we want to do is know. And on the other side of the wall, it was marked, very, very faded, but it said Kev Dave 1980. I was like 84, 83. I get goosebumps thinking about it because they were exactly our ages when at that time. And I don't know what was going on in their heads or what, but what other Kev and Dave. And then the signature was the alligator with sharp teeth, which is my dad's signature. He marks it on everything. It's his autograph and the alligator. It's like a thing he does with us all the time. And when I saw that, we both looked at each other and it was like, there's no way it could be that.
And at that point before that, like you're just so numb. You don't care. There's no emotion. You just like get through the next day, not even talking, just like we're just defeated almost, you know.
And then we actually felt something after that. We saw that and we finally got to a hotel with Wi-Fi, which was, you'd think in Japan there'd be Wi-Fi everywhere. It was literally Wi-Fi nowhere. So we really didn't talk to family the whole time we were there. Talked to my girlfriend, I think like twice in that 3 months. It's kind of how I knew she was a keeper. I married her. And I was like, hey, she stuck with me. Cool. But we called my dad 5 days later and we told him what we saw. And he said, I drew that on a couple of buildings. You found that? And I was like, yeah. He's like, I was with Dave and we were young boys. He's telling me the whole story. And it was the most confirmation that we've ever gotten. And so that was the day I stopped questioning if wrestling was it for me. It's like, obviously there's a higher power, and he showed me that for all days for me to pray that and then see that mark on the wall.
Yeah. And then we just kind of agreed, like, you know, we're not going to know what the plan is, like literally every step of the way. There's going to be a lot of like unknowns but
we knew right there we're on the right path. We're doing exactly what we're supposed to do.
We knew from that point on, it's going to end up well. Like wherever it takes us, it's going to end up.
It didn't get easier either. It got worse. It got worse.
It stuck worse after that.
Yeah. We had like drama with some of the Japanese wrestlers. Had some like real fist fights in the ring, and like it got like really, really heavy. But we knew that we weren't supposed to quit after that we're supposed to stick to it. And now it's like even before anybody reached out to us, MLW or any of these bigger companies, before anyone's ever reached out to us, we knew if God wanted us here, it must be for
because our thing is like, we don't even want to do this if we're gonna
be bad at
like
it.
Make our family look worse, you know, or anything. Like the last thing you want to do is, you know, tarnish your family name. And so I
want to stop now.
Like we wanted to get out as soon as possible before it could even get to that point. But from that point on, we're just like, okay, that was the sign, you know, we're gonna keep playing it out.
We've never been bad at something for so long. And
like we're both pretty athletic. We're usually can take stuff good, but wrestling, it's so hard.
Yeah, we would come back and what I thought would be a good match. And I'd come back to the Japanese wrestler and I was like, you like good? And he's like, no, terrible. And then just leave. And that's it.
Yeah, match shit.
And then I was like, dude, man, I remember the first time I got he said, okay. That was like the biggest compliment. I slept like a baby. I was like, dude, I got an okay.
I know. We just kind of thought it was like normal to get chewed out after every match. Like, okay, let's go in there and see what, you know.
Yeah, see how
watch them yell at us in Japanese and stuff. Okay.
Yeah, and then start speaking Japanese to other guys, and they all start laughing. It's like, I know that was like a physical, like a physical insult, you know. But we grew as brothers. That was the point though where we didn't really question the grind anymore. We knew that, okay, we're on the right path. This is what we're supposed to do. And then we main evented years later for the first time in about 4 years later in Burleson, Texas, in the middle of Texas. And we were driving in, and it was the first time like not with a big company in Japan and not going on tour buses and staying with a big group. We're by ourselves. We got our own rental car.
And there wasn't like other big names on the card, you know?
Yeah, it was us as the main event. And we're like, man, there's got to be a mistake, dude. We're not supposed to be like the main event. This is crazy. We're like, we're not good.
I know. And then you see the parking lot filling up
with people.
And right down the road is like Von Erichs, Saturday night, whatever. And it's like people are like pulling in voluntarily to see this. And it's just like, and it just felt like this responsibility. And
that was when it really started changing. Like we started seeing it turn over. Like, okay, now you get to get a glimpse of what's coming in the future. And so we would we main evented and it was weird. We didn't have like any like fire up yet, because in Japan it was just the crowd's quiet. It's strictly wrestling. And so like the working with the crowd and getting everybody into it, and like, just that stuff just started coming out of us. And that was the kind of the stuff I was kind of pushing back, because it wasn't right in Japan. It didn't feel like it was right in Japan.
You don't have the freedom.
Yeah, the freedom to do it. And then so that was started coming out, and the crowd started reacting, and it was pretty trippy. But then what kind of made us put God and wrestling together was we were doing quite a bit of shows, and my wife and I were actually trying to have kids, and doctor told me I have a 1 out of 8 chance to have a kid and all this stuff. And I was bummed out. My wife was bummed out, didn't really know what to do. And then we'd go to these shows and just see a ton of kids, and a lot of them didn't have like dads, didn't have parents. A lot of them had like rough like upbringing. So we go in these small country towns and wrestle. And then there was this one time in particular, we're signing autographs, and this little boy just wouldn't leave our table. We just stayed by our table. We signed all the autographs. Everybody started, like, the lines were moving, but he had stuck by our table. And I was like, "What's up, buddy? What's your name?" And he's like, "My name is Jake." And then out of nowhere, he's like, my dad died last week. And it crushed me. Maybe I get that from my dad. My dad has, he and him too, we have a lot of compassion towards kids, just because my dad's suffered so much. He said death can do 2 things to a man. It can harden you towards the world and make you bitter, or make you compassionate towards people who suffer. And that's definitely what it did to him. He's just one of the most compassionate men I ever met. And I saw that as a kid, watching him do that with other kids, just real compassionate, get on his knee and look in their eyes when they talk.
He would always come to our schools and go on the playground during recess. And then the teachers would love it so much, they would extend recess for like an hour, and it would just be it was like every kid's crawling on him and stuff. And
we had bullies and stuff, and we tell dad, like, "Hey, this big 4th grader's been talking crap, and he beat me up every day. Please come to school and just beat him up." He's like, "I'll take care of it." And so he'd come to school, and I was so ready for my dad just to beat the crap out of this kid, Billy. I remember him, and my dad was tickling him and stuff and throwing him in the air. And like, I was like, "What the hell are you doing, man?"
Yeah, he's like hugging my dad's neck and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like,
he never got bullied again, though. The kid loved my dad after that, but it was his way of doing it. This little kid, though, at this show, I started talking with him and wrestling with him and stuff, because he wouldn't leave our table. And we took him in the back, let him meet some wrestlers, and played football with him. We just got real close to him. And then I was like, "I've never done this before," and I'm not like, it felt weird, but I was like, "You want to can I pray with you, buddy?" And so we said a little prayer, and it was like the most, like, I don't know, the most fulfilled I've ever felt. Like, I had this weird empty void in my stomach for years. I felt like this kind of just wondering, what's the point of all this, which I feel like everybody probably feels. And for the first time ever, that little spot got like filled for that time. And I was like, well, maybe like praying for people might be like a good for me, not just them. And so we started praying before our matches with the wrestlers, praying with whoever we wrestled with. It's like, "If you guys don't mind, can we say a little prayer?" And then it kind of opens like a spiritual door, because we do come from a family of a lot of turmoil, suicide, and so maybe that we just know that no day is guaranteed. And my dad kind of instilled that in us as kids. And so my dad always tells anybody that he's close to that he loves them no matter what, even if they're fighting. He's like, "All right, I love you. Get the hell out of here." Even if you're arguing, it's just how he is. So it made us just whole time, like just moments, really, every moment's kind of special, and we try to live in moments. But yeah, that's I probably went way over the what you're looking for.
Yeah.
That was absolutely amazing, and I'm so grateful for you sharing that. That was
I appreciate
awesome.
it.
No, that was beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing, Marshall. When you do an impression of your dad, you sound just like him. Like, I'm like, "Whoa, is that Kevin?" And you talking about how your dad said he came to Jesus because for him there wasn't like any prereqs. It was just what he felt in here. And that's how I've kind of always felt just about all religions and scripture. Like I wasn't like a really good reader as a kid, so like trying to read the Bible wasn't a thing, and I always thought like I wasn't enough because I didn't read the Bible, but I always felt it, and I always was like, well, I can't like give you this scripture, but I can tell you like my experiences and why I felt that. So I really appreciate you guys sharing that stuff. And one other thing before we get into rapid fire, when I've seen you guys on TV, it always seems like you guys are just like living in paradise in Hawaii, and you know your dad is like this good God-fearing man who's like one with the earth and the world. You guys are beams of light. So thank you for what you guys are doing.
God bless you, brother.
Man,
Thank you so much.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, it means more than you know, man. Thank you.
Yeah, like Jimmy said, I'm not nearly as into it as he is, but when y'all are strapping up the boots and stepping into the ring the next time, you've just earned yourself a new fan. So
Dude, man. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. This is one of the coolest podcasts we've done. That's like super chill, and you guys are both super easy to talk to.
Yeah, you're actually asking really interesting questions too.
Yeah,
it's just like it's really cool.
And it's like you can tell there's a brother vibe in it.
Yeah,
so that's cool. This is one of the funnest interviews we've done.
Well, thank you. You all make it easy for sure.
Yeah.
Are you guys coffee drinkers?
I am.
Oh, huge.
Yeah, we're pretty huge coffee drinkers.
How do you brew it and how do you take it?
Oh man, okay. Well,
he's the coffee maker.
Well, sometimes it'll just be like a French press, and then, but you know, I instead of cream, I'll use heavy whipping cream and some sugar.
Okay, good. Sometimes people call it this.
Yeah, some people think it's like, oh
no, we get down with that for sure.
Okay, cool. Because I do drink black coffee too when I'm in front of people. When I'm at home,
so here's the thing with the heavy cream. There's the fat in the heavy cream actually attaches to the caffeine, and fat is the slowest digestive macronutrient. So it actually slows the caffeine going into your bloodstream. So if you approach it like that with people, there's nothing sissy about it. It
so longer?
Yes.
Oh man,
and it makes it less intense, like than just shooting back. I
just noticed that because I'll drink black coffee and I'll be like wired, and then I'll drink regular, and it's just like, yeah, you have a boost, but there's not as much of a crash.
Yeah, that's so true. Okay. Yeah. Okay, good. I'm gonna come up with that with that as my defense now.
There you go. And one other fun fact with that, I was driving across country once, and I was at a Starbucks on Route 70 or I-70 going across, and I asked for full fat heavy cream, and the gentleman just turned to me. He goes, "Are you Canadian?" I said, "No, I'm from New Jersey." He goes, "Oh, okay." He's like, "Because Canadians are the only people I've ever known to put heavy cream in their coffee." And so I gave him that whole spiel about, the fat attached to the caffeine. So
I didn't know Canadians did that. Really? So is when you go to Canada, you're gonna get some good coffee probably, or just good cream, I guess.
Good cream, yeah, for sure.
That's crazy. Because we were in Japan. There was a coffee shop right by our dojo, and every morning we'd go over there right before training, and they had these little heavy cream.
Like the only place you could find heavy cream, and they're in like these little tiny packets.
And this is what got us hooked on heavy cream with coffee is. We were putting in our coffee and we're like, dude, this is so creamy. It's so much better. We couldn't wait for mom and dad to try it. But then we started like shooting the creamers back and then taking a sip of the coffee. And we were going,
we took it too far.
Yeah, we did take it too far. Yeah, we took it too far. But man, again, heavy cream makes coffee so good.
Yeah, definitely. Gentlemen, do you have a daily practice or a ritual that you do on a regular basis to show up as the strongest version of yourself?
Oh, man.
Well, I definitely go to the gym. That's not every single day, but
it's on weekdays. But yeah, I mean every day. We one thing I think I don't know. It's like a everyday thing, but one blessing about having a brother is to be able to talk to him about stuff that maybe you're embarrassed to talk about with anybody else. Like sometimes if I'm going through something and I don't know. I just don't get embarrassed around him. He knows all my all my crap. I know all his stuff, so I can literally tell him if I killed somebody, I would tell him, and yeah, I know he wouldn't rat me out.
Right, I'd turn him in for sure.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
yeah. Turns on his recording device while talking. But yeah, I would say maybe just having just kind of bouncing ideas off each other, having a brother to talk to is good. But every day, that's all the gym is we just happen to be working out at the same time, but the whole time we're talking about where our hearts are at. And
yeah, I know, and I think you internalize less, and like sometimes when you like just mull stuff over in your head and you don't really address it and stuff. Like when I lived alone, it was just I'm kind of like I have like a melancholy side, and so I'll just overthink things, but then when you can just say it out loud to your brother, and he's basically almost the same kind of human, you know. So
we're the same person but opposite personalities.
Yeah, like I'm more the introverted, but he's just the extroverted version of me, basically. Like we all almost have the same thoughts, you know. Like
together we make similar. Like a decent human being. Like,
same.
One by one.
That's the truth.
Same.
Yeah. If I'm around people and I want to be cool and stuff, I promise I just pretend like I'm him, and I just go, what would Ross act like? And then he was a backup for Hobbs and Shaw, like this movie thing, and he said it was a lot of just Hollywood, very like loud, extroverted people, and he just pretty much was just being me. And
I was like, I'll just act like Marshall, and I got along great with everybody.
Yeah, I got a whole bunch of fights. Nobody understood me.
Thank you.
I'm gonna have to try that.
There's definitely times I pull my inner Rich out for sure. When I start talking serious and I'm not smiling, my inner Rich has come out.
Yeah.
What are you all listening to right now? Music, podcasts, audiobooks? Are you reading anything?
Yeah, I'm more. I don't read anything. I do audio everything. But yeah, I'll fall asleep. I've been falling asleep to. I'll do audio Bible sometimes just to fall asleep because you have the sickest dreams. If you listen to a story in the box, I was falling asleep just whatever podcast I was watching.
TikTok.
If you're watching like a TikTok video and you fall asleep with it on repeat, the same stupid video, it's like that can't be good for you. So now I try to get rid of my phone around like 8 o'clock or whatever, so my mind's ready to go to sleep. And but I'll on the TV I'll put on like just some audio Bible, something like that. And the stories are cool because you'll have dreams, and sometimes you'll have dreams and like you're like the character in the dream. And I remember one time I had a dream about Jonah, and I got swallowed by this like whale. It was crazy. It was the trippiest dream I ever had, and it was that was what kind of got me on it or whatever. But
man, I like I'm not like a conspiracy theorist, but there's some of the stuff.
It's okay, you're in a safe place.
Man.
He is. So am I. We both are.
Let me get my tinfoil hat.
Yeah. Have you looked at our library?
I thought he was going to pull it out. I was like,
I'm pulling mine out too. Like, brother,
let's go.
Man, there's such interesting stuff. I mean, I don't know.
It's hard to get in. It's hard to get into it, but yeah, there is a lot. We're both pretty hardcore conspiracy theory. There's one in particular that I was like, dude, just what if NASA's been lying to it? You know, I thought
space is fake for sure.
Yeah. So, that's what I'm trying to get him on. Like
moon landing. I don't know.
Like moon landing, that's a for sure. That didn't happen.
So we'll bring we kind of switched it because we went. Well, I went straight off
for sure.
Crazy town over the last 3 years, but we switched up our last question. So I'll ask you both of them since you guys brought it up. But we used to ask all of our guests, what is your favorite conspiracy theory? So I'll put that on the table for you.
Oh, dang, man. I wish I had time to think about these because these are all.
I'm going to say like a semi-tame one that won't make me look crazy, okay? And then
you have one stored up?
I would say
I'm just gonna come up right now. I would say I'm gonna use a thumbnail. Marshall Von Erich thinks the Earth is flat. Right there.
Oh my god.
There we go. Whoa. Marshall said right there.
We could get into that.
I think it's well known that
skeptic. That's right.
The JFK stuff was there's a lot of questionable, maybe inside stuff. So I saw some stuff on that today too.
Yeah. But
I don't know.
yeah, I know once we hang up, I'm gonna be like, shoot, oh man, that was actually a way better one. Maybe this is one's with Christians too, but a lot of people will talk about the Bible and they'll say, yeah, I believe the Bible until I saw that some of the guys were 800 years old and all this stuff. But I talked to this guy that was a lot smarter than me, and he'd be better to talk to about it. But he was talking about there being a like a water canopy over the earth at one point, and science can prove
the firmament.
The firmament. Yeah, exactly.
Like the atmospheric pressure would have been way more, and then they've grown things like under, like it's like 60 feet of water, like 15 feet or something, but they'll have a glass dome, and they'll grow things under there, and they grow to like 5 times the size. Like these guys for the military were staying under there.
They lost their gray hair. They were like,
one of them grew a little bit, just weird stuff like that.
And because they're in like the perfect environment or whatever.
Yeah, and there's like an ideal as far as atmospheric pressure and stuff, I think.
But I was talking to that guy, and he's like, that's why he's like, Adam and Eve, they're probably like 15 feet tall. He's like, but you don't say this to people that are the Bible's kind of new because they make it look more crazy. And I was like, yeah, dang, but it's the Bible has some pretty cool like conspiracies.
Giants,
yeah, there's like giants.
Nephilim.
Yeah, Nephilim. Yeah, man, you guys are freaking cool.
Okay,
you guys are, we just do a podcast after this. It's not recorded.
Well, so before I get into the last question, I'll drop this one on you.
I'm ready for you to ask about the mud flood.
Have you heard of Tataria and the mud flood?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, dude. Yes, yes, man.
All I know is there's definitely some technology that is being suppressed. We'll say that.
There's gotta be.
I think we could all be energy efficient. You know,
I follow this one kid that I was afraid that he was gonna get like killed or whatever, but he was literally pulling power like out of I don't want to butcher it, but he had this light bulb and he generated power through like he's wrapping this copper around like. I am gonna butcher it. Basically, he put a light bulb without touching, making any contact, and the light bulb lit up.
Yeah, I got out of the atmosphere or something.
Yeah, and he's like, the world's full of free power. This is
energy.
All free energy. It's out there, and so
that's the reason it's so interesting. It's like, oh, this would be so good for the world, and like, why are they like? What's the point of? Yeah, I don't know. It just gets crazy.
Like almost half the stuff they say, it's
none of what you hear and half of what you see, you're supposed to.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that's I just don't trust them now. So if they tell me one thing, I like, okay, what they're telling me to hate, I want to go look at their side just because they're so against it. And so it's it's hard on some people. Like my in-laws, they don't like that because my mother-in-law's a nurse and
by the
book, and my father-in-law was a police officer, but it's also by the book, and so try to tame my conspiracy theorist mind when I'm around him, but my wife hears all of it.
You got to be able to read the room.
Yeah, man. You got a lot of guys that don't read the room, and they go all out.
This guy can't even read books. So.
Yeah, like I'll agree with everything he's saying. It's not in front of everybody.
Tie it all back to our new, because like I said, we went a little too wild with the tinfoil hat stuff for a minute. So we were like, it's like, I think we should change it up because some guests get down like you guys did and have, and other people kind of get, because we do some NCAA coaches and stuff, so they get a little uncomfortable with that question. So we changed it up, and our new final question is, do you have a guilty pleasure?
Yeah, let me think. Yeah, I mean, other than just bad foods and stuff. Half the ones he can't say because he'll go to jail.
Again, you're in safe company. We made a movie. We made a movie called LSD, a documentary of Rich doing microdosing and running the Boston Marathon.
Wait, we can watch that?
Yeah, it's on that same channel. It's called LSD, Long Slow Distance.
You just earned 2 new subscribers.
Let's go.
Okay, guilty pleasure. Let me think. Okay, man. I guess. I don't know, man. I know I'm gonna think of a ton of good answers.
I know, man. Right on the spot, it's hard. I don't want to be lame and say, "Oh, sweets or candy" or something like that. But
say kratom. That'd be a good one.
Yeah.
Let's see.
What strain?
We like greens, or I like green and or green manga.
Okay. Yeah. I'll say kratom then, because like like if there's a day where you have to do a bunch of hard work, or you just have to like mow like 10 acres or something, or something labor intensive, and you have any pain.
It got my dad off pain pills. Like it was pretty trippy seeing my dad completely stop taking any pill, and then got him on kratom, and now he's like barely taking kratom too. So it's like, it's pretty crazy. And he didn't really build up I was afraid he's gonna get like addicted to it. And then same thing, I had some blown discs in my back and stuff, and doctors trying to throw pain pills at me. I'm like, I don't want to go that route. So we took some kratom, and it was insane. It was like, I feel like it's just as strong, if not stronger. But yeah, it's same thing though. If you like something too much, always try to keep it.
Yeah, I know. We always we know our family's history, so we're super. We won't do anything more than like a couple days out of the week or whatever like that. Because we don't want to go down that road. That's for sure.
Everything in moderation.
Yeah.
I like to ride the lightning a little bit, so I like to really get in. Never mind, I was gonna go too far. I always do scenarios with them, and I was like, all right, would you do meth for 1 month straight every day, where you build up a huge tolerance for 10 million?
And then you just have to then
you have to wean yourself off. He's like, what if I blow all my 10 million on meth for like the rest of the so I love scenarios. Those are that's my stupid thing.
Irrelevant ones.
Maybe that's your guilty pleasure.
That is, I do it.
Really actually does.
I do it all the time, even especially when we're in a situation.
I love it.
Right on,
man.
Yeah,
gentlemen,
this is literally the funnest ones we've ever done. So you guys are awesome.
Yeah, you guys are cool, man.
We appreciate that, and it's been an honor and a pleasure chatting with you. And like I said, Jimmy's going to let me know when the boots are going on, and
no boots. One set of boots.
One set of boots, one set of barefoot. But when you're stepping into the squared circle the next time, I will definitely be tuning into.
We want to meet you guys too. If we're ever in your town or something, please reach out and we get you guys tickets and dinner or something. You guys are super cool, so we want to meet you all.
Yeah, you guys. Yeah, you're cool guys, man. 100%.
We're definitely going to take you up on that.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys. Safe travels too. I'll when you guys get to Texas, let Jimmy know I'm in South Carolina, but I'm not too far, and I like to travel.
Yeah,
so.
man. Yeah, right on.
Yeah, if you're ever in our area, come stay with us and hang out, man. That'd be awesome.
I appreciate it.
All right,
good luck going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. We're going there right now.
Take care.